Very good.
All right. We'll call the town board meeting of Tuesday, May 13th, 2025 to order at 6 o'clock. And everybody please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Tonight we'll start with a recognition. And Andy, I think you were gonna speak on this.
Yep, we have Boy Scout Braden Welk here, following up on his project that we partnered with him on last fall. He was gracious enough to make the township a beneficiary of his project and did some work in the school forest. So I'll turn it over to Braden to summarize his completion.
So my name is Brayton and I'm from Boy Scout Troop 435, and I had just finished my Eagle Scout project. I built 2 benches and a picnic table, and I placed them out in the Linwood School Forest. I think you guys have pictures of where I set them as well out there. Yeah.
So you got them on both ends of the forest for people to be able to utilize no matter which end they come in. So it's very, again, thank you very much for thinking of the township, and obviously the school will enjoy them too when they have their outdoor classrooms. So you got, what was your biggest challenge with the project?
Probably trying to get everyone to do it all efficiently.
That's tough to do with 14 and 15-year-old boys, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
and the adults.
And the adults. Well,
Great, these are beautiful.
yeah,
These are really beautiful. I haven't seen them in person, but I look forward to going out and walking the school forest trails just to see these. Where's the picnic table then?
It's down by the boardwalk, down
Oh.
by over there. So
Okay. Very beautiful. Something to be proud of. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thanks.
thank you very much, Braden.
All right, roll call, please.
Supervisor Hendrickson. Here. Supervisor Cole.
Here.
Supervisor Olson.
Here.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Here.
Supervisor Ledke.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, and we had a public forum last time. Is there anybody here to speak on public forum? All right, seeing nobody, we'll move on. Consideration of and approval of the agenda. Is there any changes or considerations to be made? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion passes. All right, in consideration and approval of the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed, motion carries. All right, acknowledgement of committee meetings. 8.1, this is road and bridge meeting minutes. They were presented in the packet. Essentially, we're looking at going out for RFPs before the next meeting. So hopefully we'll be opening sealed bids at the next meeting and getting those contractors started up. Is there any questions about the road and bridge meeting minutes? All right, move on. 8.2, cemetery meeting minutes.
Okay, so we met on, I think it was 10 o'clock on the 7th. And I think it was probably the longest meeting they ever had. So they did come up with some new ordinances or amendments to the ordinance.
Is
We talking about the right thing?
no,
This is from March 12th.
March.
Oh,
12th. This is
sorry.
Just the acknowledgement of.
All right, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm anxious.
All right. No, that's no problem. Any comments or questions to those meeting minutes? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to number 9, community center. Change in exercise schedule.
This is just a brief update that Tuesdays are no longer available for exercise. And I don't know how long that will be, just for the foreseeable future.
Great, thank you. All right, we'll move on to finance. 10-1, financial discussion workshop. Andy?
I threw this one on there. There was a up to, there's a budget summary in there, but really wanted to have the discussion and get on our calendars to circle back on the budget. Just in terms of 2025, I know there was the shortage from that levy that was approved at a February budget meeting, but would like to review that in terms of making sure everyone understands the impacts of what and where those cuts were made by staff in terms of the capital only. And then review the 2026 and start putting some plans together as well. And then in there is the budget report to date from the auditors through April, or not the auditors, sorry, from Abdo. Something to have for you to review and look at, but then I really want to get a date to be able to sit down at the workshop, figure this first stab at it kind of thing. So, thoughts?
Absolutely.
Any dates in mind?
Everybody grab your calendars and let's get a couple on there while we can.
First glance out of, not to add more on everybody, was what then 27th looks like in terms of load on the agenda, if that was able to be a conduct business type meeting, but we probably would have one land use on there.
The other thing to consider for that meeting is the reorganizational stuff with Supervisor Cole.
So
Otherwise, as of right now, it looks fairly light with those two things, so we don't have a lot coming back.
there's an opportunity there to keep it on one night and just have that meeting after this. Keeping the board meeting to conduct what we have to with reorg and the land use stuff.
Yeah, do you think that could be wrapped up pretty quick?
I do.
There's gonna be a lot of budget discussion. Yeah, that's what, yeah.
Yes. I agree,
It's
Bob.
gotta be its own night.
Or should we do a special meeting with? for
We
the
can do
budget?
another night. It's just, I don't think we're gonna get it all done in one night either. That's why
Yeah,
I figured you'd hit it for an hour and a half that night and get a start conceptually. Because there's a lot of
Unless we started on the 20th and then finish on the 27th.
planning and zoning. Tuesday nights aren't, that's why I was trying to
Planning
do
and zoning is 27th.
yeah. 20th.
Do you think initially on the 27th? That like an hour just to kind of go through the budget stuff initially, or do you think we're gonna need more than that on the first night? Cause the committee assignments, that always seems to take longer than what we
Yeah.
ever expect.
or the Wednesday or Thursday before start it and then hopefully finish it up that night. The 20th is my grandson's graduation.
Andy, you talked about like a preliminary kind of information gathering so that we don't get to like the main workshop and realize we're missing
Correct.
some documents. So do we want to do that first? Do we want to do that tonight?
Well, right now, if we set the date, we know what we have to come there with. It would be going back to the other departments, and everyone understands the impact of where the levy ended up. So to think that the once over of each budget should probably be reviewed for departments. become somewhat cleaned up.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm open that other nights that week. If needed as well, whatever the board's flavor. I just don't want to go a year without discussing it like we did last year.
Yeah, we can't do that. Yeah, this little different is that this will fall on supervisors to figure out this year. So I'm open on the 28th or 29th.
Do we have to agree to a night at the meeting? Because embarrassingly, my wife manages my calendar and she's not here. So I'd want to double check anything that I agree on.
Absolutely, we can circle back on.
Okay.
So let's so tentatively the 28th or 29th, and when would you want to do the?
The
second
29th
one?
does not work for me.
29th, okay, so we're tentatively the 28th. And for a second night, do we have a tentative that we wanna throw out there? Do we wanna do it the week after? Do we wanna try to do it on the 10th?
I am gone the 10th.
So 10th through the 13th, you're not available? Okay,
How about the 21st or 22nd? Is that too soon?
You're talking
yeah,
tomorrow?
Oh.
Or I mean, next
I think
week?
it's
You're talking
too
3
soon.
weeks.
Next Thursday. or
I think it's too soon because we're gonna have to get with each one of the departments to talk. I think, get some initial information.
Oh,
Well, what about just a little bit on the 27th and 28th? And then if we need more,
Set a follow-up on that date then?
Yeah.
I'm fine with that too.
I know that those days will be good.
Okay. So Billy, if you want, send an email out to all of us on scheduling and
6.
verify 6 o'clock on the
6
28th.
On the 28th.
And then at that meeting, we'll schedule a second one if we need it. All right. All right. Everybody ready? All right, so that's a workshop. Anything else on that one?
Yeah, documents in there too, so.
All right,
As far as a workshop, I would like to in the future consider doing the pole pads and talk about our dog.
Dog permits.
Yeah, some dog issues. Animal control, that's the word.
and you think that'd be a workshop?
I'm thinking that, and then talk about the school force unless we can talk about that tonight. But I'm thinking that might be better after our budget meeting.
Mhm. Okay. All right, so we'll schedule those later.
Okay, but soon, hopefully.
Okay. Yeah, and then we'll have to get a public notice out to cover all of those topics. Okay. All right, done with finance. 11, planning and zoning.
So this is in your packet. Paradise Point Property Owners Association does the Fair Lake Fair Trade Market, runs, I believe, July through September every Saturday. And last year, back in July, Mary Welty had came in front of the board and wanted to then put the sign advertising it on the fence at Alquist Park. Board approved it, said apply for a sign permit. So she came into my office a couple weeks ago and was going to apply for the permit, and I found that our sign permit is not as simple as like applying for a dog license. It's not, okay, here's your pay the fee, here you go, have a great day. It actually then goes to planning and zoning and then comes to town board. So kind of like almost like a land use type of situation. And it also falls into a gray area of the fact that our code references temporary signs, construction signs, real estate signs, temporary being 30 days, not the same sign, put up consecutively every 30 days. But then also I think it's more geared towards, as far as the sign permit goes, is more towards the actual business signs, like the new sign on Viking, and businesses that have signs actually have support structures, et cetera. So and then I believe too that the sign permit fee that was quoted was $25 and it actually is 50. So there's a discrepancy there. So I actually am coming in front of you, just asking, how do we proceed with the process for this particular, like I said, it falls into a gray area that we don't really address something that's just for, a summer type of thing.
Sure.
Well, it is something for the community and the residents, so I'm thinking it's something that should either be written into the ordinance or we should just make us, somehow it's to where they wouldn't have an issue every year.
The ordinance in bringing this forth, because when I was speaking with Ms. Melty on it, there's a lot of bureaucracy that came through it that really came to light when just trying to process it, and the fact that it's a biannual renewal, and again, the township having ordinances how do you follow up on it? It really, in talking with Susan, we were both dumbfounded trying to navigate our way to it as to why there was intent when the board said hang the sign on the softball field. And then coming in and executing it added a lot of confusion and back and forth. And again, it's just one of those things that it exists in our ordinance that we should clean it up, make it flow so it works for staff, so staff is able to assist residents when they come in clearly.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I completely understand the business signs, the permanent signs, the signs are there all the time. I get the temporary signs, the election year signs, those types of things. But this is such a interesting area of it, where it's really just something temporary for 90 days or so. And who knows, they'll be doing it in 2 years for biennial. So it's, to me, I reached out to Annie and said, where do I go with this? Because I'm essentially going to probably vary somehow from the ordinances, and I can't just make that call myself. So here I am.
Oh, you gotta come up.
This is Mary.
You gotta come up, Mary. And you have to tell us who you are and your address.
I'm Mary Welty and I'm with the Paradise Point Property Owners Association and the Fawn Lake Market. And going through the regulations on that, there is a carve out for community events, just like the Linwood Days. And if the board recognized the market as a community event, we could probably bypass everything because it allows the extended signs.
I didn't see that specifically, and I thought I went through it pretty good. So I'm just going to kind of check on that really quick.
Maybe I'm remembering poorly. Or wishful thinking. This is what it would look like. So you would know. Going up. Very, very generously donated printing services, the banner.
I know a lot of people in the community do look forward to this, so.
I think so, because they are, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I didn't find it specifically. I know any township sign is exempt from the ordinance.
And I guess that's as where the, like the Linwood Fun Days, because it's part of the town board approved event, fell under that exemption.
I think so.
Are you a nonprofit?
We are.
Makes it easy.
Yeah. You've been here the longest, Bob. Do you remember any exceptions to signs like this kind of a situation? So
For nonprofits.
14 years, this is the first time we've had a sign request like this for 3 months.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, do we want to move forward with giving permission rather than changing our ordinances for a 1 out of at least 14-year kind of a situation?
I think we should move forward with permission and then we can work on the ordinance for futures.
September 13th is the dates.
Because we want the word out there so that they can get the people going through, they, might be that one opportunity that someone would want to join that when they drive through. So I think we should allow this, but we can work on the ordinance for future references.
If we even need to work on the ordinance.
Are you
if
gonna
this
make a
is-
motion?
I make a motion that we approve the hanging of the Fawn Lake Market Flea Market sign for the 90 days for this summer, and that we look into the future for future ordinance if there would be any other events that would need consideration.
So hanging the sign at the Elquist Park.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Is there like a date range?
That's why my friendly amendment, I was gonna second, but the amendment is,
June 14th to September 13th.
yeah, I would
But they're probably gonna want to sign up a little bit
correct.
early,
I was gonna
right?
say starting now through,
yeah,
So-
now through,
Now
The
through
first.
now
the first
the
week
end
of
of the-
September.
flea market.
Are you still charging the $50 fee?
that was my second part. I would waive that fee and the
Yes,
process.
they-
Well, you want to start from scratch? Or you
Okay.
wanna do the first one and then we can do another one? Yeah.
Rescind your motions.
Yep, I rescind my motion,
Okay.
my second.
Okay, I make a motion that the flea market, the Fawn Lake Market and Farm Market can hang a sign from now until September 13th on the,
Alquist Park softball fence.
yeah, at the park. And that we waive the fee for hanging this sign. And also that we look at the ordinance in the future, that if any other community events that our residents would do, that we would have ordinance in place that we can refer to.
All right.
Should I ask her to
I'm-
repeat it?
I'm not gonna repeat that motion.
I'll second it. As long as she knows what it says, I'll second it.
All right. Now the motion's been made and seconded. Now, any other discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Mayor.
Very, very much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for what you're doing up there. That's a very, very interesting flea market. Thank you.
Are we gonna have to do this again next year?
We'll look
Probably
at
so.
the
Oh, we'll look at
ordinance.
the, yeah, gotcha, okay.
She'll start at my office. She'll come to you.
All right, we'll move on to number 12, old business, temporary staffing discussion. Who wanted to speak to that?
Agenda. Oh. We have temporary staff currently in the office working with Billy. We do need to meet and finalize the terms and the roles, speaking with Billy a little bit on it, you know, in terms of what she has been filling in with Abdo and the needs of the role. We've got the plethora of answering the phones to some administrative stuff with working with Abdo to in terms of treasurer position being interim right now. Kind of the board's thoughts and flavor to combine the role, so to speak, of the vacancies of what, because we don't need a full-time treasurer with what we have right now. Is one option. Kind of just, I mean, from the board's interaction, what are the wants and the needs as well? And obviously, not speaking for Billy, but whatever else is that I missed.
So right now, the interim treasurer is interim treasurer in title really alone, other than making a bank run once a week. All of those duties that Abdo's needing, like things scanned or pay stubs printed, all of those, the information is something that I'm doing, which takes away a considerable amount from clerk duties. So finding somebody that can do administrative work, even part-time, would be very, very helpful until we decide moving forward what that treasurer role is going to look like and how much time is necessary for that person. Minutes and things like that that are very time consuming is where I'm starting to lag. And they're super important for historical purposes, so those are something that you don't want to have behind. The data requests fortunately have slowed significantly, so that part is kind of eliminated itself, but there are other things like the dog licenses and things of that nature that somebody could easily be taught.
Roughly how many hours do you think that you spend a week on the treasury stuff?
I would say it's at least 2 hours a day. Some days more if it's payroll week,
About 10 hours and
but every day invoices come in and those need to get looked at and scanned and then sent over, and it's things like that. They're looking for information because we're transitioning into a different type of payroll situation. So they're looking for information that's, for me, buried because number one, I haven't been here very long. And number two, it's not my area of expertise, so it takes me a little longer to find what they're looking for. So
so right now we have a 90-day interim agreement with Abdo. Is that right? So we don't have a permanent agreement yet. So I'm trying to figure out how we would define and hire for that position if we don't know yet, if we haven't made that decision yet on whether they're going to be a permanent contractor. So I think we need staff. And I think we need to move forward with staff. I'm not sure if we can fully define 100% what that one position would be until we know. Because if it's just a matter of doing the kind of the clerical side of the finances and Abdo continues long-term, we probably don't need somebody that's got an accounting degree or have that level of expertise. So
and there are a lot of people that are in that admin assistant role that have accounting experience, if not background. So, I mean, we're hitting a pool of people that is varied in their abilities.
okay.
Doesn't have to necessarily be an accountant or
Mhm.
What happened with the lady that we had interviewed for the filling the part-time?
She's the contract interim.
Oh, okay. So that's all squared away.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just temporary.
and right now she has been, the few hours she's been there has been invaluable. She's done a lot of things that have taken a little of the pressure off of me and I think a little bit off of Susan too. Even just having somebody answering phones so we can not get distracted every 2 seconds is life-saving.
So we're looking at hiring a role beyond what she's doing or to fill her role more permanently?
Yes, correct.
The
More
second one?
permanently, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, and also at a rate that might be a little bit less than what a contractor
Yep.
would be.
So are we gonna need to decide on Abdo before we move forward with this position? What are your thoughts?
How much longer do we have them as an intern?
2 months, maybe?
So maybe at the beginning of next month, when we do these other,
They,
do a workshop, we can
they
just.
are also, because due to the terms we went with, their quick action team is what we've been dealing with
Mm.
for the last month. They're now transitioning us to their HR payroll team, which should streamline a lot of our processes, which would allow us to have a more long-range snapshot of the pluses and the minuses, to where that role of what Billy's talking about would supplement or the township decides it needs something else. I don't know.
Well, and
We
we,
don't have a long enough gauge yet.
sure, and we still have 1.5 positions that are open in there. So what would happen if we move forward with hiring a full-time person that doesn't have treasury qualifications? Get that full-time person in here so that you can start getting help now. If we do find that we don't move forward with Abdo, maybe we use that part-time position to fill for a more experienced treasury kind of a person. Because we would still have that 20-hour week position open for that. And what did we, I mean, I think up until 3 years ago, our treasurer was always part-time, wasn't it? So what are your thoughts as far as that? Then we could at least move forward with possibly hiring that one full-time position.
I think it's a great idea, but you're looking at an admin assistant position.
Correct.
Office support
Correct.
first for a full-time.
Exactly. And if we find that we don't move forward with Abdo and we bring treasury back in, then we would look at that halftime position then for a higher quality
The
or a higher
full-time-
qualification.
The full-time position that you're thinking of can be more entry level than I think what some of the other positions that the township has had.
Sure. To me, that makes a lot more sense and then we're not held up. Bob, what do you think?
Good.
Makes more sense. All right. So has there been a job description or do you want to do a job description, bring them back to the next meeting for this office assistant?
Do we have that job description that
The
you
one that I
sent out?
sent you and Andy. Mhm.
I'm fine with that job description. Perfectly fine with that, but if we want to change it, 'cause if it's gonna change due to the Abdo that we're doing,
That one needs to get a few things.
It does
tweaked to
need some tweaks because I think that one is more measured for part-time work. And if this is going to be full-time, we need to add some things to it. Because it's really, really narrow right now. That job description. So it needs to be a little more all-encompassing.
I'll speak for myself, not for Sam and Lisa, but I have a high degree of confidence that between Billy and you two to define that job role. I don't know if I personally have to give a stamp of approval for you guys to move on. I don't want that to be a holdup myself. So I would be okay if the three of you work together on defining that job description and move forward with the hiring process.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I agree.
do you have an idea what you want changed?
Yes,
So can you write that up and send it to us?
100% yes.
All right.
And very quickly.
Yeah.
It is actually.
All right.
Except it's titled Billy's wish list right now, so now I can change.
Okay, just to memorialize this, I'm just gonna make a motion that that we permit our clerk and our two office supervisors to work together on defining the office assistant position, job description, and move forward with the hiring process. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Now you guys can move on. All right, 12.3 town attorney options. Who wanted to speak to that?
I can. I reached out to a couple and I got, Corey and Ruby got back. I mean, I'm at they're the only ones I heard back from. They're the only ones that we heard back from. I would, at this point, unless somebody else has anybody else. Anybody?
We had them before we had the one we have now and there were some issues. That's why they went the other way, but there's not a lot out there. That's the problem. There's not a lot of township attorneys out there.
I think we always have the option of changing at some point if we need to anyway, so. I'm fine. He at least has some experience with the township, so
He's got a lot of it.
he's not coming in blind anyway.
I'll make a motion to go with Corey and Rupi for Township Attorney Services.
I'll second that. Any other discussion?
Do we have a price or we just throwing darts?
Question.
Yeah, how much they are?
You know what the rate is?
They are. I'm not in my email for this one, but they were comparable, a little bit more,
Ish.
250-ish an hour.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. New business, proposed changes to the cemetery regulations. Now it's you, Lisa.
I misplaced it. Alrighty. So I don't have the original or, deal here, so we're adding this to this line and moving all the definitions down by one line. So this will be number 2. Qualified non-resident biological child, stepchild, foster child, sibling or step sibling of any age whose parent or guardian is a Linwood resident is added to that. So they will I don't have the rest, so that'll be added. So if with this being said, resident that, I'll read the other ones first. People entitled to a gravesite, add to the end of this is in section 9. The remains of a qualified non-resident may be interned in, and then scratch off the first burial space of and it'll be unoccupied lot that would be chosen by the parent / legal guardian who is a current resident with written permission from said resident. So with this, a resident would then be able to, if a non-resident child was to pass before them, that resident that is qualified for a gravesite would be able to claim that gravesite and bury their child and would not be given another gravesite. So I would like to make a motion to approve these modifications to the ordinance of the cemetery ordinance.
All right, motion's been made. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second for discussion. So do we not have the full?
I did not bring the whole ordinance with. I apologize.
Nope, I'm just, so I'm bound, because there's a couple number 9s, is my only question, because I'm at the website. So are you, and my only
I
question,
believe this is on page 3 possibly. Let me see if I'm gonna look at my.
so I guess my question being, just if, because it says everything moved down 1, so that's in definitions, correct? So that's
Yeah,
gonna,
so that's on page 1.
so you're gonna have a definition number 1 of a resident and a definition number 2 of a qualifying non-resident.
Yes,
And then partner, we'll go to 3, everything goes down. So we'll be at 12 definitions. And then that's saying number 9. Add to the end of this section,
so it
9.
would be what was new, I believe. If you have where it's red, you had the new 8 was all new, so this would be added after that, I believe.
Number 8 is the cremains of a relative of a deceased Linwood Township resident. So then it'd be a number 9 after that.
Yeah,
Did this come from the cemetery committee meeting?
yes,
And did the committee, like, is this from the committee, kind of their?
this is from
proposal?
the committee.
I called a couple committee members today. One answered the phone and it almost seemed like the group was almost pushed into agreeing with this because this person said, we're just trying to make everybody happy. I don't think that's the right way to do it. And it almost seems like this group's getting really good at whoever screams the most wins. And I've issues with that. I think this is great. Qualified non-residents. Are we gonna do it for free? I mean, the average cemetery plot in the state of Minnesota is between $1,000 and $5,000. If you're a non-resident, are we gonna do this for free? Or are you gonna pay to do this? Biological child, stepchild, foster child. I know people in this township with at least 4 foster children. but you're only allowed to put 6 in a certain spot.
4.
So most you can have in a gravesite is 6. So I'm just concerned that we still don't have the information. I think it's a great idea if it's under, if they're minors. But I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but a lot of people are gonna come out of the woodwork because it's free. They will come out of the woodwork. If you make it for an infant, I think that's phenomenal. Because an infant didn't have, or not an infant, a minor, didn't have a choice.
This is qualified non-resident biological.
I know,
Child.
but it also says foster child, and it also says sibling, step sibling at any age, and I'm just not all for that any age thing, so that's my opinion. Luckily I get one.
Wasn't there another section though that said that even a non-qualified was a $250
Yeah,
fee? So there is a fee,
There
but
is
it's
a
covered
200
under a different
yeah,
section.
that was brought up, the $250 fee for,
Wish we had the whole section. I do not have it. Supervisor Lutke has it. I do, he could probably show me how to get it, but that'd take,
I'm
Too long.
looking up
Then
my
we township
email.
I know.
I just went to the website. So here's what I'm in agreement too. It's good. Conceptually, we have a plan and direction. Can we just get it so the whole thing is documented? So next meeting it's in the consent agenda and it's through? Cause then you have something to read. Right now, you don't know what or where. Everyone's got questions because yeah, you didn't mess with the fees at all. That is still there. How your grave markers are handled, they're still there. Just having the whole thing together, redlined like we have in the past, would show the changes and the effectiveness and the impacts, because then you would still see everything else is the same with the applicable administrative fees.
Brian, go ahead, please.
Brian Langlois, 6360 232nd Avenue. I attended that meeting and it was a very lengthy meeting, like Lisa said. All the details were covered in that meeting. To Bob's point, the fees that exist currently still exist. All the other regulations as far as interment, the amount of sites that are available to a couple still remains 2. There are no additional sites being offered with this amendment. It just recognizes qualified non-resident. It's limited by the site requirements that are covered in the regulations already. And then it goes on to say who's entitled to it. And then the last item number 9, I believe, that's ties the whole thing back together to the definition. And the definition is that of a non-resident. And with the permission, which parallels what's currently being done for minors, is now being expanded to any age. And you're still limited by what that site will allow, whether it be 4 or 6. The first one in can be a full body interment, and the remaining spots would be cremains. So just to give Bob a little bit more clarity, and the red line, I agree, there should have been a finished, highlighted adds and subtracts, but all of that was done, voted on, unanimously accepted by that board. And I believe, John, you were there at the end of it, so you saw that. So I just want to make sure that we're clear. There's really no reason to push it out anymore.
Right. All right, thank you, Brian. Any other discussion? What do you think? I mean, before we've made a practice of, before we actually adopt something, we make sure that it's clearly written. So how do you guys want to proceed with this?
I'd like to see the red line version. I agree. If the definitions standing alone are what they are, conceptually, we're fixing the issue that needs to be fixed. It just has to flow and make sense to everybody, because add to the end of the section 9, like I said, the 2 9s that are in there are not relative to this. One of them is about flat markers. So I don't think you want to add this to the end of flat markers, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so that's where I just go to, let's make it clean flowing. We understand intent, if we can understand that tonight. Everybody understands the intent of getting a child in before a parent. And that's what this is achieving. But by having a completed document that can then be put out there for all to see, it goes a long ways for clarity.
Feels like a little bit irresponsible for me to approve an ordinance based off, I think this is kind of what Andy's saying, based off what I have in front of me right now. I'd like to see kind of like the context of it rather than just kind of a little snippet that's going to be added. But with that being said, I feel like there's this pressure because I know that there are people waiting to bury their kid. And so I would be in favor of kind of turning down their urgency so we can take our time and do this properly. And so I don't feel this pressure to kind of just blindly approve.
That is why I would fail this motion, and then we understand what this is. And that comes back and put it in the consent agenda for the next meeting with those policy redlined. Every board supervisor's reading the packet before the meeting. There should be nothing, it's been discussed now for 2 meetings. We know what we're trying to achieve. Show the red line, show what it is. We don't need to beat this up again. And it's done and it's happened. And then it's printed on the website the next day. And one more moment, just for clarity for all. This is not an ordinance. I don't want Susan to get phone calls saying they changed an ordinance last night. Ordinance is a completely different process, public hearings and all. This is a standard policy in terms of how it's administered. So we are changing no ordinances.
Barbara Sletton, 7701 Viking Boulevard Northeast. I went to the meeting, to the cemetery meeting. It was all voted on, cut and dried. I sent a notice to Billy to make sure it was all in your packets. Lisa, I sent a note to saying she was going to present this. I'm just really frustrated at how each time you tell us to do something, we do it, but there's something that gets messed up so that it doesn't get addressed and keeps getting pushed out farther and farther. And this couple is waiting to bury their son. We are not taking any additional lots from anybody. If one of these two would die, the lot that they're asking to put their son in now is one that they would be given. So it's not costing anybody any more money for that. They're paying the fees that they need to put their child in the ground. They're willing to do that. I just am very frustrated. I've lived 80 years and I've never been in a process like this. But I feel like we're way overdoing what needs to be done at this point. Can you address the points that need to be placed in proper order now without pushing it to another meeting? I'm asking for your consideration. Thank you.
As far as the documents, I put in the packet what was provided to me.
Might need to pull your mic closer. In the process, how long does it take from the time that a request is made to Craig Rhinelander to do a burial till the time that he actually gets it done? Does anybody know?
When my son passed away June 27th. And I didn't get actually that was afterwards. So it didn't take me that long. I'm thinking it was a couple weeks or a week or two. I'm trying to remember. That was 2020. Do you remember how long it took?
That was a blur for me.
What I'm trying to figure out is, can we allow them to start moving down the path of this process pending this approval at the next meeting?
There's nothing changing with the process. In terms of the application, that's not going to be changed or updated. I don't, I can't, I guess this is why we should do it right, because you might have to have a checkbox added for what type of, I don't know what the application looks like. So that is, to answer the question, that is why doing it this way in terms of a process that everyone can see, with having a red line version, and then it's done.
Was there a red line version somewhere?
No,
When Brian Langlois, 6360232nd. It's been going on for months. You're tired of hearing about it. You've mentioned you're tired of hearing it. You said you would vote for it once the language is in there. So did you, Andy. The language is in there. We got a petition that had clear language. You told us to go to the committee, let the committee review it and make their edits. They reviewed it, they edited, they had good ads. Now I'm just saying, when you sent those instructions over to them, there was confusion on two parts. I requested in the last meeting, that you send the proposal as it was worded in the petition. They were, during that meeting, looking at two different copies. They were looking at Barbara's and they were looking at the petition. So they led to a longer meeting than it needed to be. So the instructions need to come from this board clearly. If you need a markup, if you need a red line edition, completed, edited versions highlighted, then it's on this board to give those detailed instructions. Going to the committee that meets periodically and throwing it back and saying, no, you got to come back again,
It's
is
July.
ridiculous at this point. They were instructed at the end of that meeting, I'm going to finish, because I am scolding this whole process. The committee voted, they did everything correctly. They edited like they should. They were supposed to send an edited version to Billy to be distributed to this group so you could make a ruling today. Two lines added, one to the definitions, one to who's entitled. Nothing in the rest of the document has been altered. End of story. We need to get better at doing business, especially if you're going to have these committees that are doing their things and they're not as receptive. We have to be better than this. There's no reason this should go beyond today, especially after taking time off of work to make sure that we get this done right this time. To be sitting here with board members objecting and wanting to return it again, I think that's a bit ridiculous at this point.
I don't think that this needs to go back to the committee. This is just literally a case of, I feel like there's a bit more information and context here that I don't have in front of me, that I would feel irresponsible, like making a ruling on without it in front of me. I don't know what it says. Stuff is being added and being moved down lines. I don't know what those lines are. Now, with that being said, it sounds like there might have been a little bit of a goof up. This stuff happens and it's kind of an annoying, long drawn out process to do stuff. So kind of in the same vein of what we just did with a sign, I would like to make a motion that we just go ahead and approve for them to start their process to have their burial, because I don't see anything but downsides of not doing that. I mean, it's just puts pressure to approve something without all the context there. I mean, I'd really like to make sure that this is done correctly without feeling like I'm delaying the burial of somebody's child.
so. Point of order, though, we have a motion on the table.
There is now. Right. Going to restate your motion.
Motion is to approve the burial.
Stop.
Do we vote on the other one?
We have a motion other than this one on the table?
Yeah,
I made a motion and
Point of
Andy seconded for
ordinance.
Oh, there already
discussion.
was one.
yeah.
All right, thank you. Sorry.
Do you need me to like rescind or?
Your motion doesn't make any difference right now. So if they want to rescind, they can rescind. Who seconded that?
Andy seconded it for discussion.
Okay.
So Lisa made the original motion, Andy seconded for discussion. So if you both rescinded, then
I just want to speak to clarity though, so. The cemetery committee doesn't have the cemetery committee standards and policies. Is what I'm hearing. Cause that would be what would have been marked up. And to what Supervisor Cole is speaking to, we have two sentences in front of us telling us to add or move down, and I have the December 10th version in front of me.
Brian, you can't talk from the audience because the people that are watching can't hear you.
Apologize. The committee took the minutes. Look at their minutes. You're going to see the final wording in the minutes of that meeting for each of those amendments. It's in there. If they took the minutes like they're supposed to, it's in the minutes. Exactly how it should be called out for the changes.
All right, thanks.
But they didn't do it to the standards and regulations of Linwood Township policy document that is on the website right now,
Correct.
which would follow precedent with everything we've done of having a red line version. And everyone here has the intent of knowing that the goal is to have that in front. So I will take the action and help that. I think that's what this board needs to get to, is some of the dotting and i's and crossing t's.
I didn't realize
Emotion comes into stuff and then we throw stuff and then we're up here. It'll be done. I'm going to do it at this point. And we'll have the document and we'll get it in front and it's there. And then we are all adhering to standards and policies of which we're trying to put on everything. And we're not doing it here.
No, I would like to see us in the motion, allow this family to move forward with Craig on getting all the plans worked out, the plot. They can get it scheduled, and we just have to wait until it goes through the consent agenda at the next meeting to formally, go through the process of putting the person in the ground.
if it's in the.
I mean, I hate to have it wait 2 weeks also, but it's, again, I was there, Brian. I know what the intent was. I know what the dialogue was. It was a long meeting. But I hope you also understand though that we have a list of policies, and right now, as many have identified up here, this is saying to insert here, move here, push there, and it's like, it doesn't flow. It's not the document that we need. I don't want to slow down their process any more than we have to. So that's why I think the family should start moving forward with Craig on doing all the planning and get it ready to go. And at the next meeting, the very next morning, they can move forward with the burial.
Okay, just to be clear, you, Andy, John, you're giving your assurance that these lines,
Us to vote to do the burial. So what happens if we get all the red line stuff? And exactly like the reason why I want the red line is to know what I'm approving. But if I notice that there's something I don't like about it, I still want them to be able to bury. That's gonna put me in a terrible spot where they're gonna bury the next day, and
That's where I'm speaking to everybody at this board should read the whole policy. If
No.
that hasn't happened, that's a fail on this board. So to know what he's speaking, when you're shifting, when you're dropping, when you're doing, then it all flows. Because as we sit right now, there's a number 9 there. It says add after number 9. The only number 9 mentions flat markers. I don't think that's the intent of where that sentence should be or where it is. It's probably adding somewhere else. So that's why we got to get there to where everyone can see it.
Were you on page 3 or was it 4?
was towards the end.
I
It's under.
wasn't there. So it would help if I
definition.
had a document.
How to find,
Okay, one
Bring it up.
amendment to, that's the one that screwed everybody up, right? But it made sense. That's, the committee came up with a good plan for moving it to the number 2 position in definitions because it was appropriate. That just shifts all the remaining down by 1 count. Secondly, it's the section that's titled, those entitled to a burial spot, inserting the new line at the end of that section. That's exactly how it,
that was the section, people entitled to a grave site.
it has nothing to do with markers or any of that other kind of stuff. That, like I said, these amendments did not alter any other portion of the regulations.
The language will be correct, but it's just got to get into the document. So,
And understanding affecting documents. So there's an application. So if that, I don't know what that looks like. If
Right.
that has a checkbox about you need to know that it's non-qualified now, I don't know. that's where we need to rely on staff to be able to provide their input and work that way. So intent is there. If
The committee said that this is what would allow it. And they were happy with it.
Okay. Billy, can you restate the motion, what the motion was from Lisa? Do you have it written down or not?
Lisa made a motion to accept the definition and add the number 9 section to people entitled to a grave site
Okay. All right, thank you.
as written, and Andy seconded it for discussion.
All right. Is there any further discussion at this point before we vote?
plan is, get a red line version in the consent agenda with the intended language, making it flow. We'll look at affected documents, the application being one of them. There's nothing stopping anybody right now from filling out an application and working with the cemetery sexton on what and where. I would assume that when he hits a roadblock, much like staff did with a sign, it's already at least that far, because
All right.
you know what I mean? At this point, we're gonna move forward with what we need to do, and it'll be there, and it'll be clean for all.
Are you keeping your second, or are you rescinding it, or you're gonna keep it and we're gonna put it to a vote then? All right. So all in favor of said motion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Opposed.
Opposed.
All right, fails 1-4. Is there a follow-up motion?
Yeah, I'd like to do a follow-up motion. And I may need specifics on people's names, but once again, like or should I make the motion, then discussion after?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion would be to not pending any other further vote from this board to grant an exception for them to proceed with their burial all the way through the completion, just approve it. Regardless of changes, which we will make, but to just let them be done with this. That's the motion, and maybe I need to use specific names or.
I don't know if we have to put specific name. Yeah, probably. Otherwise, you're gonna have everybody that's gonna be in here.
Maybe we should talk about it, or I don't know how you're going to proceed, but I think you understand kind of what I'm getting at.
We don't know how long a burial takes at this point of what, you could do this and it could be out there ways too, so.
I hate to be up here every 2 minutes. Honestly, I do. It's ironic that you brought that up, Sam.
Okay.
Because in the regulations, the last line of the regulations, it states that this board can grant an exception at any time and can make edits to that document on their own without the committee. And you just proposed what we had asked for years ago
I wasn't here.
and months ago and weeks ago. It's an exception that this board can grant. You've just proposed it. We would have accepted that, but then we were told by this committee, Andy, very specifically, if you get the language into the document, I will vote for it. You just left in your last statement, the door open to go ahead and do the process. Make your request for burial. And if you run into a roadblock, then we'll deal with it like the sign. That's the problem I have, is that you're leaving it open to be rejected because it doesn't fit the current regulations. You need to be more precise on what you're saying. You can't have it both ways. You're either going to fix this document or you're going to grant this exception, which you do have the power to do. And I think you need to work with the committees to make sure that they convey the information correctly, because this has turned into a fiasco. It really shouldn't come to this anymore. And there's more than just one family affected by this. So if you want to name names, Keith Bisey is the one we want interred. Lisa knows of other families that are waiting on the results of this as well. Do you want to include their names and grant all these exceptions tonight? I think that would be a great thing to do. And you stated on record that you will get these changes made. So you've got the language in front of you. The committee spoke. You all have the right to implement. It's that simple.
Okay, Brian.
I don't know if anybody seconded. my
Nobody
motion.
seconded
I
it,
will
no.
second it.
So could I continue a little bit on what I wanted to say?
Yeah, for discussion, yes.
So like I mentioned this a little bit, but just to be totally clear, I mean, I don't want to go home tonight. Sorry about my voice. I don't want to go home tonight and look at this ordinance and just go, ah, crap. There's like one word in here I don't like, and I wouldn't want to vote on this and I want to change it. And to feel like by being this nitpicky, which I feel like I should be nitpicky about what I'm approving, but to have that nitpickiness be affecting other people, which it sounds like most of us agree that, like, we agree with the spirit of this, but it just, I feel like we're letting kind of this bureaucratic process, which should get done properly, kind of.
So next meeting, if there's like one word that you want to change, that once we have the red writing.
Or I have a question.
We can change that writing ourselves at that time per the.
Or if I have a question or something, like, I don't know how serious it might be, but I feel weird, like giving a half approval of, I'm going to vote yes on this next meeting. That seems like a weird promise to make, because I don't know what I'm gonna find when I read the full context. It might take 2 meetings for me to approve it, right? Without seeing it in front of me, I can't say. But what I can do is I can just grant an exception so people can move on and turn down the temperature a bit so that I can take my time and do my due diligence on this.
Yes, go ahead.
Gordon Heisey, 6278 32nd Avenue. I've been listening to this board discuss this whole situation. I went through this over 2 years ago, and different board members mostly, but same result. A board member voted, he made a motion that we make an exception, and it was approved by a 5-2 vote. And when the minutes of the meeting came out, it was disapproved by a vote of 3-2. Now, where the hell that? Somebody got together with somebody else after the meeting and changed their vote. Highly immoral, illegal act. So I don't give a damn what you guys vote on now. He's been in our rec room for over 2 years now. I don't give a damn what he does. He's been there another 6 months, another 2 years. I don't give a shit. I'm really, really disgusted with the board. Thank you.
Thanks, Gordy. All right, so we still got a motion on the table. It's been seconded. Any other discussion? This motion is to grant an exception to, is it Gordon Busy?
Pat.
Pardon me?
Gordy and Pat.
Gordy and Pat? Yeah.
Keith.
Oh, okay, the Barry. Okay.
I have that written motion.
Okay, good. Can you reread the motion then, including the name?
Cole made a motion to allow the family to. Supervisor Cole made a motion to allow the family to move forward without pending any additional vote from the board to plan a burial of Keith Bisey.
All right, thank you.
Plan and bury.
Plan and bury.
All right,
And Lisa Henriksen seconded that motion.
thank you. Any more discussion? All right, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. So you can move on.
And
Move
if there's
forward with that.
others who fit this, I'd be up for it. I mean, not right now, but
Well, this,
The ordinance should take care.
right.
yeah, I'm just saying, like,
Policy.
I'm just saying, I'm not promising to approve this the next meeting we have. I probably will, but I think everybody knows what
Please,
All right.
please, everyone, do your due diligence with your committees. Bring stuff forth so it's there. We owe it to the residents. If anyone reads this packet right now, how would they make sense of what's in there? If we
Wouldn't.
can't.
Okay. All right, we'll move forward. Maintenance RFPs. In the board packet, do you want me to speak to it, Billy?
Yes, please.
Okay, in the board packet, there's several RFPs that are in there for the typical road and bridge stuff that we would do each year. Obviously, it got held up with staffing issues. There are a few minor changes in there. We're requiring that the bids be either mailed or delivered to the township. Bids will not be received through email any longer. This way they remain sealed until we open them. Out of the packet, there's also the list of roads for aggregate is different than what's in the packet. I was identified in yellow. Those are up, that was last year's, so we've updated it with this year's. Same thing with crack sealing. So those are updated. And the last change off the top of my head is that the street sweeping is going to be based on a fixed bid, not an hourly bid. And that way we can control our cost on that. Yeah, otherwise it's a couple other wording changes, but that's about it.
And the park mowing will be included.
Oh yeah, and then yeah, thank you. And then the mowing of the parks, that RFP will also get included and sent out. The plan right now is that we'll get these out here by the end of the week. So that we can have those by the next board meeting. And then we can get these approved and get contractors scheduled. So basically, this is just for information. If you guys have any comments, you can certainly be welcome to make those, but otherwise it's more of for your information. All right, hearing no questions, we'll move on to 14, clerk updates.
Just real briefly, I touched on this earlier. There's been a significant decrease in data requests. So that is a positive thing. The ROW permits were backlogged because there wasn't like a written procedure on how to do them. That has now been figured out and we are up to date with all of those. So there should be no issues with that. And everything else is moving along pretty smoothly as far as Susan and I handling everything we can. I do know that sometimes the phone does, if somebody's at the front desk and somebody's on the phone and the phone rings, I know that we're missing a few calls, but I think it's very minimal. So if anybody's trying to call us and they don't get us right away, either leave us a message or call us back because we are there. It's just a little difficult to get them all at once. The meeting prayer is before you. The last couple of meetings, I have not included it. And I'm bringing it to you so you guys can decide as a board how to direct me. If you want to continue with the prayer, then I will put it back in, or if you want to leave it off. I'm leaving it to you because I didn't realize that that wasn't my call to make, and I apologize for that.
Myself, I think we need God, and I would like to include it.
I prefer to leave it off.
I'm good without.
Hey, Bob.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm torn. The intent of it is well meant. I've gotten a lot of feedback from people in the community that they like that. I just found sometimes in the past, and maybe it's better in the future, in the past, I had a struggle with it because we would say a prayer that we all get along with each other, and then 10 minutes later we were at each other's throat. And I was like, why are we doing this? So I'm really torn.
My concern is, and the reason that I originally didn't include it is in a world where inclusivity is a hot topic and important. I didn't want anybody watching or sitting out here that didn't feel or have that belief system to feel excluded. Because I didn't want this board to run into any trouble. And that was maybe my error in thinking that I was able to take it off, because I just didn't want anybody to come at you guys and say, well, I don't believe that. Why are you doing it?
I mean, I'm not Christian, so to me, when I came to my first board meeting, there was a prayers. I didn't like freak out, but it struck me as a little bit odd. Especially, I believe in separation of church and state. I think, when they get joined, it mars both of them. It mars the religion side, it mars the government. I'm not gonna freak out if we keep it. It's not that big of a deal to me, but I think that it's better to leave it off.
It was brought in by a supervisor who was a security guard at the state capitol, and they do it before every session at the state capitol. So that's how it was brought up. It was a board decision to have it in the meetings. So it has to be a board decision to remove it from the meeting.
I'd make a motion to remove it from the meetings.
Second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor of removing prayer from the board meetings signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Opposed?
Oppose.
Okay, motion passes 3-2. All right. Anything else, Billy?
That was all I had.
All right, thank you. Upcoming meetings. All right, so we got the Martin Lakers 58th annual meeting Thursday, May 15th, 2025 from 5 to 9. We have planning and zoning Tuesday, May 20th, at 6 o'clock. And we have the annual park tour and meeting, if we don't get bad weather, on Monday, May 19th at 5 o'clock. There may be a quorum of supervisors that attend that, although there will not be any business conducted during that time. Next regular town board meeting is Tuesday, May 27th, 6 o'clock. Anything else to come before the board tonight? Much less time than last meeting, so I appreciate that. All right, if there's a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.